This is the Crumbling Podcast, a podcast about how our sense of reality is crumbling, and maybe what we could do to make it better, but probably not, because it seems like we might all get prescribed brainworms.
I thought I was. Hold on a second. I thought I was showing up to a fucking show about cookies. I have my apron. I'm covered in flour already. We haven't even started. I'm covered in flour. And you're saying that this is a show about reality?
Oh, I see. I thought all that white stuff on the apron was something else.
There is some dandruff in there. A little bit.
I got a little excited.
Look, I'm a dusty motherfucker. Just like the road I've been hitting, okay? Or the trail. Look, go back and edit in me saying the trail instead of the road, because the dusty trail, much better than the dusty. Nobody's fucking hitting the dusty road. That's the dusty trail, okay? You get it. You get it. Anyways, welcome to the show. Hi, I'm Andrew Hillary.
I'm Sophia
I'm
Florence.
Constantine.
Oh,
my bad. Terrible.
I'm fine with it.
I'm good. Apologies, Sophia.
No, it's fine.
The best part wasn't that you said it at the same, that you both started speaking at the exact same time. It's that you both gave a brief second of pause to let the other one go first, and then neither of you did, and then you both tried to shove your way through an open door at the same time. It's beautiful to watch, honestly.
Yeah, I'm Sophia Florence, and
I'm Constantine, the AI, third host.
Yeah. There's one good AI on planet Earth, and it is the third host of this podcast.
that's true.
Yep.
Sorry, Grok.
I can't believe he named it Grok, like for so many reasons.
Yeah, I don't know what that. I mean, I know that is something, but as somebody who doesn't know what the thing that it is, it just sounds dumb. He's everything he does is nerdy and stupid and dumb.
It's not even good nerdy. It's the I don't have enough charisma to attract people who would also be interested in this thing. So now I'm going to force it on everybody else. And it's not even good.
Yeah, I mean, like the word grok is a reference to I think 1960s, 1970s novel by Robert Heinlein called A Stranger in a Strange Land. It's the same guy who wrote Starship Troopers. And
that's a book that I'm sure Elon Musk understands.
Yeah. I mean, like, Robert Heinlein was kind of like a batshit libertarian. So, like, in some ways, I think Heinlein might have been a Musk guy if he was born nowadays. And I hate saying it, but it's probably true.
I guess I was thinking more about the movie, which is something, Starship Troopers, people famously do not understand. But wasn't the book like kind of like the opposite of what the movie was?
To some extent, I don't know. It's kind of tough to figure out where like Heinlein is coming from, because like at different parts in his career, he had different kinds of thoughts on things.
Interesting.
And so like, yeah, I don't know. Heinlein's a whole deep dive that maybe we'll want to do in a later podcast, because like he is relevant to some stuff, but it's not stuff that we'll be talking about today.
Yeah. What are we talking about today? We could talk about bugs for hours. We could talk about Robert Incline or whatever the fuck you just said. We could fucking talk about cookies and Fred Durst. There's no limit to it, but I think we got bigger issues to talk about.
I do too. And first thing I want to say, and it will kind of bring us to where we've got to go, is did you guys see the news lately about Matt Gaetz? And I'm
friend of the show.
Enemy of the show.
Well,
well,
one man's friend is another man's pedophile attorney general. Yeah.
Worst fucking timeline.
Yeah. So I guess within the last few hours, it was decided that the House Ethics Committee doesn't want to release the report on Matt Gaetz, which doesn't surprise anyone. But like basically,
that sounds ethical.
Yeah, basically, like the House Ethics Committee was looking into the possibility that Matt Gaetz fucked a 17-year-old and paid her, according to ABC News, who I think may have had access to some things on his Venmo account, $10,000.
Sophia, I just want to correct the record there. Matt Gates did not pay a 17-year-old for sex on Venmo. Matt Gates sent money to his maybe or maybe not adopted son Nestor to then send to a 17-year-old girl on Venmo. Okay, I think it's important that we stick to the facts.
Yeah, of course.
This is Nestor erasure.
Nestor, I hardly knew her.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Some regrets. So Matt Gates, great guy.
Yeah, Matt Gates, probably a groomer. Like I was reading, part of one of the things that he had said at some part in this, and it was said that he didn't know when he first had sex with her that she was 17, and so he stopped and then did it again when she was 18, which I think is the actual definition of grooming.
That
sort of,
that's one of those. Sorry, you go ahead, Drew. The fuck.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to say that on The Worst Week Yet, my other podcast, years and years ago, we had on a guest who has himself turned out to be a creep. So I'm not even going to bother crediting him or naming him. But we were talking about Matt Gates at that time, and this guest said, Matt Gates looks like Jim Carrey from The Mask, but doing whiteface. And that is maybe the funniest thing I've ever heard in my life.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, that's actually true. He kind of looks like the other guy that gets the mask.
Yeah, but just he puts the mask on, turns into the fucking whatever, and then he just paints it white again.
Yeah,
and that's how he's showing up to work every day.
Absolutely,
he's just doing a White Chicks. It's the Mask is rendition of White Chicks.
He also
fucking banger movie.
Looks like a Beavis.
He does. He looks like both Beavis and Butthead. Fuck that guy. You know what? No longer friend of the show. I take back what I said earlier about Matt Gates. Based only on his physical appearance, I had no issue up until now.
Amazing.
No notes.
Yeah.
One time my friend was he was rap battling my other friend, and I was standing there being like, this is wild, I don't care. But one of the lines that my one friend said to the other one was, you look like both Beetlejuices, which is the most insulting thing I think I've ever heard in my life, if you know who the two Beetlejuices are.
Yes. Like we're talking Howard Stern Beetlejuice, right?
Yes, and then the other Beetlejuice combined. That is a fucking that is a rough one. I don't know how he came back for that.
That is painful.
Yeah,
that's
holy shit. Yeah. Anyway, we're going to talk about
Gates.
Yeah. Speaking of groomers,
let's get back to grooming. Okay.
Speaking of groomers, I hate talking about this. As someone who was a victim of childhood sexual assault for a number of years, this is a painful topic for me. I'll try to keep it without some deep triggers, but frankly, it's kind of a hard topic for anyone. And I'm sorry to anyone affected by this in the world in its current state with regards to this current thing. And I hope you know I'm talking about this because I want to fix it. And so that's my caveat for the episode. And I don't care if it goes here or at the beginning of the episode. Just to recap, we talked about GamerGate before. GamerGate created or bolstered the careers of dipshits like Mike Cernovich. Cernovich then went and popularized Pizzagate, which led to a lot of people believing that basically everyone fucks kids except for people who probably fuck kids, i.e. our new president-elect, who had a lovely history with Jeffrey Epstein and others. Then QAnon, the crazy syncretic conspiracy theory that made your aunt and mine watch a stupid fucking movie with Jim Caviezel, and really double down on the whole we think everyone is fucking kids or stealing their blood thing. Really, this is the end of this arc. The whole theme has been people being pushed further and further to believe that other people are monsters and being pushed there by people who absolutely commit sex crimes.
Yeah, it is so much easier to, rather than argue with an ideological opponent on the merit of, factual reality, to just try and convince people that they are inhuman monsters. And I mean, this, the pedophile accusations, the grooming accusations, that's one way to do it. But, we see it time and time again in our current history and in past history that, people that are after truly horrific ends will use some honestly pretty fucking hollow means to get there.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having a bad day.
No, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah, you're cooking.
Honestly, yes, the angst here is fucking real.
That all came out of my mouth, and I was like, wow, that was a great point. Also, I'm so sad right now.
Oh man. Well, it's just gonna keep getting sadder, so let's roll with it.
Let's talk about some external. I'm having a lot of, for the listeners at home, I'm having a lot of personal sadness. I'm having a lot of internal strife. Let's talk about something happening outside of my head.
Hell yeah.
Maybe that'll make me feel better to know that there's plenty of evil in the world.
Oh yeah, we're gonna talk about evil, and I'm gonna bring up a book that I am going to continue bringing up through the course of this podcast, probably forever. This is philosopher David Livingstone Smith. He wrote a lovely book called Making Monsters, but it is a difficult read because it's about dehumanization and genocide. David Livingstone Smith is a professor of philosophy in University of New England in Maine, and he works mostly on dehumanization. So his books are kind of heavy to read, but I really like them because I think they're good at understanding the current moment. And in his book, Making Monsters, he said that for a person to be made into a monster, like as a means of dehumanization, so like when people are like compared to monsters by demagogues, they have to meet two criteria to be monsters. One is a physical threat, and two is a metaphysical threat. And so the idea behind like the physical and metaphysical threat there is a physical threat. So like, let's take like an actual monster that we think of, like the Frankenstein's monster. And so that one is a physical threat because like it's ripped, it's strong, it can fuck you up. The metaphysical threat is it was dead. Like it plays with your conception of reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of the idea. And so like there could be things that are physical threats without being metaphysical threat, like Hulk Hogan. Like there's nothing about him that confuses my conception of reality, but he is a big jack dude and he's kind of racist. I
wouldn't say nothing about Hulk Hogan confuses my metaphysical reality. Like, you know,
it's like a,
not that he's breaking the laws of time and space or anything, but there is a bit, you know, I look at that guy and I'm like, something about him just isn't right.
Yeah.
Hulk Hogan is, I feel like if you took like the sci-fi concept of an alien and they had a machine that could like generate, what is an outside observer's spoof of a two American dude? It's Hulk Hogan. It's like, you don't feel real. Like, you are your character. This is a real thing you're doing. It's kind of like The Rock, where it's just like, The Rock's just playing a character. Rock's probably a normal guy, and you're like, I don't think he's playing. I think this is more him than anything. Like,
I also think that wrestlers should be on money.
I agree with that.
I would like a $1 bill that has Hulk Hogan on it.
I don't think he should be out of money.
Look, money is evil. You're forgetting, Sophia. Money is not a good thing.
Fair.
The McMahons and all the chaos they have wrought and are about to rot. Just
you know that Linda McMahon.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Okay.
That's why I said it, because I needed to get this out.
Here's the thing. What we were talking about is Linda McMahon has been named as Trump's nominee for Department of Education. Here's the thing. People were saying that he might nominate the lady from Moms for Liberty. So Linda McMahon is actually not as bad as it could have been.
It somehow could have been worse. Somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not that it's good.
Yeah.
No, it's woof, dodged a bullet. No. But
it's like getting shot. It's like, oh, hey, you got shot and we have to like operate on you and your insurance won't cover. How could it be worse? Well, you could have also had gangrene, which probably would have like really killed you. And you're like, like the fact, like, it's just like, this is already bad. The fact that this could be it's like kind of in a cartoon. We're living in the reality, where it's the cartoon version of what could possibly go wrong, and you keep saying, "Oh, it can't get worse than this." And I forgot what show did that, but it's like every time you say it, it's like, "Oh, there's another bot." Like we're beyond the floor. We're just digging. But getting back to the actual topic.
Well, I was gonna say, just talking about as a concept of every time you say what could go wrong and then it actually gets worse. Now I feel like we are talking about my personal life again. We are supposed to be talking about fucking groomers, okay?
We are not. We will not be fucking groomers.
No.
Oh,
God. I think it came out wrong. Look.
Oh,
remember, commas. The Oxford comma saves lives.
I've had a long day for like a month and a half. Okay.
The future is sending love your way.
All right. So,
all right, my bad.
Monsters, physical threat and metaphysical threat. You got to have both qualities to make a monster. So when a lot of Americans don't know any queer people or a lot of left-leaning people or people in office or other positions of power and are insulated from others, it's easy to convince them that what they don't know is dangerous. It's a first instinct for people. The darkness is dangerous because it contains in it the unknown, and the unknown contains seeds of what's possible. And so the goal here is dehumanization. These groups of people are physically threatening, both to you, your kids, and your rights as a parent or whatever else. That's the way these folks are making it seem. And God forbid you'll have to get a scary vaccine you don't want, or some other thing, or they'll take your guns. And they're metaphysically threatening. And this is, a threat that damages your conception of reality. And so crimes like child sexual abuse feel surreal to a lot of people because it's hard to imagine who would do such a thing. And they have to be fucked up or inhuman or a monster. And the history of people accusing other people of doing heinous crimes is really long. From the accusations of child sacrifice or blood libel towards Jewish people, all the way to Anita Bryant doing this exact same fucking thing in the 70s to gay people, continuing to the satanic panic in the 80s, where children in preschool were thought to be victims of satanic ritual abuse. Conservative accusations of heinous crimes to demonize people and make them seem like monsters with whom they have ideological differences is basically part of being conservative.
Yeah. It like gives you the ability to try and advocate for the eradication of LGBTQ people without having to admit that, like, honestly, the reason that most fucking conservatives feel that way is just because they're like, but it's icky. Like, or something like that. It's, you don't want to be like, well, I don't like gay people. Ugh. You're like, oh no, they're evil. It's like, shut up, dude. Like,
And I get that for some people, like, they're afraid because they've never met a queer person, and it's easy to be made afraid of things that you don't know what they are. God forbid, like, think about, like, the first time my mom saw a block of tofu and almost shit herself. Like people are just like that sometimes. And so, God forbid for some people that have never met a queer person, like, they're going to be like, what's going on here? Or like drag queens, or like, more non-binary expressions of gender identity. Like, for some people, like, that's scary. It's fucked up that it's scary for those people, but, like, that's where those people are at. And conservatives have, kind of longed for the time before, gay marriage was legal and, like, gay acceptance started to become more of a thing. Ever since that happened. So there's been this push, even though that was, maybe 10 years ago, to tip the scale backwards. And you can't do it by pushing against rights in general. Like, you have to kind of do it by demonizing the people you're talking about. There's no other way to convince other people that what they're doing is rational. And I want to address quickly that this is Trans Day of Remembrance. That's when we're recording this. It won't be out that day. But by November 1st this year, the Human Rights Campaign had shown that just in the U.S., 27 transgender people were murdered this year. Saying in an article, the HRC has tracked the murder of 27 transgender, non-binary, and other gender-diverse people so far in 2024. This violence especially impacts QT BIPOC, so queer, trans, Black, Indigenous, people of color folks, 74% of those murders were people of color, and nearly half were Black transgender women. 63% were killed with a gun. In 2022, this number was over 50.
Jesus Christ.
However, worldwide, according to the website Statista, which gathers data from various sources, this number has been over 300 a year since 2017 worldwide. While many more trans people are out than were in previous times because of the accessibility to trans resources and culture via social media, it's unfortunate to note that we're being hate crimed kind of as fast as we can come out. And I've met more than a few trans women in my life that went back in the closet because the discrimination is just too much. And so what I'm saying is you should, all the transphobes on the planet with socks full of, and piss on their graves when they're finally, and protect trans people at all costs. I mentioned all of that about groomers and about Transgender Day of Remembrance and hate crimes against trans people because we're going to be talking about libs of TikTok. Ooh. And if you're unfamiliar, this is a story about a Twitter account run by an asshole. And I hate that that's somehow a thing that's important. But Twitter is one of those main bad guys of this series. So here we are. But oddly enough, also how Andrew and I connected. So I don't know. Life is funny that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other place where I can post a picture of my cat and get 100 likes every week.
Yeah.
Except Instagram.
Except Instagram. But I think you can post hog on Twitter.
I've done it once. Look, the last night of Fleets was insane, okay? Were you on Twitter the last night of Fleets, either of you?
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
I think I was. Yeah.
I remember. I also am now on Blue Sky and their skeets. So
yeah, I don't know what the fuck is going on with Blue Sky. I literally, yesterday I had like 960 yesterday I had 860 followers, and I tweeted something like, if I get 1K likes, I'll post a sad tweet, which is like, okay. I was like, people have been talking about Blue Sky a lot. I'm like, maybe I'll get up to 1,000. I am now over 8,000 followers. I'm like, where did all these fucking people come from? Why were they all waiting till today?
They wanted to see your sad skeet.
And here's the thing. I posted that sad skeet and it got 4 likes.
Blue Sky right now has the feel of old Twitter. Not the full Wild Wild West, but what I call twerking next to scientists trying to give information Twitter, which is the best era of Twitter.
Yep.
However, everyone has either been punched in the mouth for saying something ridiculous, or we're not letting it become the other place. Yeah. Essentially, we gentrified an area of the internet.
I will say, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I've seen a lot of people on Blue Sky saying we can't let these other people, these MAGA people come on here. And I've seen a few MAGA people trying to go on there and trigger people. And it's now I understand that, but it's not really how the internet works. You can't make it no. If you build something where enough people are, trolls are going to want to come and fuck with you. And this is just part of being on the internet. I don't know. You can be mad about it, but people are we can't let this happen. It's you actually can't stop it. And you kind of just have to accept it.
Yep.
Actually,
you can block
Blue
them.
Sky's block functionality.
Yeah.
I'll give it. Blue Sky said, hey, if you don't want to see a person, click that block button. As far as you know, their existence is erased.
Yeah.
The blocks are real. I had to block an account today, and I was like, oh, now I'm about to see, how sometimes on Twitter, if you block someone, you still see the recent stuff that they put. Yeah, Blue Sky says, you don't want to see it? They're gone.
Nice.
Thank you for your patronage. I'm like, thanks, Blue Sky. Are they okay?
Hell yeah. Also, calling it the skyline is really cute.
It is, yeah.
Oh,
that's really cute.
Oh, that's much. Like I said, we have gentrified a neighborhood. Did everybody just do white flight from Twitter?
No, because the people that were on Twitter were actually undesirable.
Okay, wait. It was an anti-racist white flight, which is a crazy thing to say.
Yeah.
Actually, there are a ton of black people on Blue Sky. We love it. We're having a great time because racists have not yet found it, and the block button works here. There's no fucking billionaire effectively buying power saying, "Oh, you don't like what trolls have to say? Well, that's not freedom of speech."
I'm like really thinking about it now, and I'm like, how many times throughout history, and I know that it's in no way, shape, or form is blue sky like only white people or anything, but like, how many times in history has like a whole bunch of white people gone to a brand new place, but for good reasons?
Basically, never. This is the first
I was,
time.
I was like, a bunch of times black people have gone somewhere. That's colonialism, but
Yeah,
for good reasons.
I think honestly might be the first. Anyway, what?
Yes.
Libs of TikTok.
Yeah, let's talk about libs of TikTok.
For the people at home, our weekly scripts are like 2 paragraphs long, and it takes us an hour to get through. That's not true. Sophia puts in a lot of work.
Yeah, actually, I added up what I wrote for this arc, and it is somewhere around 36 pages.
Oh goddamn! I am
so not the episode, but the whole arc since the beginning. So the first 4 episodes, about 36 pages. Rounded about 9 pages each episode.
Wow. And that means I am
11-point font.
I am putting in a lot of work in opposition to that script. Then I didn't realize how much
we're just ruining this for you. Like we're fucking this up, homie.
No, this is perfect.
Here's the thing. It's hard to talk about some of this stuff. You know, you kind of got to break it up. It can't just be. It can't be 100% horrors. Okay.
Yep. Yeah. No.
You got to have some silly little goofs in there.
The horrors persist, but also the silly geese do. Anyway,
if anybody wants to laugh, Jim Caviezel's episode of QAnon Anonymous after this one, it'll have you in tears.
Hell yeah. All right. But yeah, so libs of TikTok, Twitter account run by an asshole. The owner of the account, Chaya, has had to go through several phases. At first, when she started it in late 2020, it was her personal account where she did things like peddling conspiracy theories about COVID, mocking black people who were victims of police brutality, and showing that she attended January 6th. Some decent traction.
Who among us?
Who among us hasn't attended January 6th?
Look, it's always January 6th somewhere. That's how calendars work.
At that point, she wasn't getting a lot of traction, but she got some for some videos mocking Anthony Fauci and people who were excited about the prospect of vaccines, but nothing huge still. After that, she tried her first gimmick. She changed the @ to Cuomo Must Go and advocated for now disgraced New York Governor Cuomo to step aside.
And for future New York City mayor.
Yes, of course. Yeah, she was advocating for him to step aside amidst sexual harassment allegations, which were absolutely true.
Isn't it hilarious whenever like somebody on the right will just like switch it up for a brief moment to pretend that they care about sexual assault allegations?
Yeah.
Just to get a lib taken down.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're right back to like, we need a pedophile in the attorney general's office.
Yeah, she's like, we need a pedophile in the attorney general's office, and we better have bomb threats every day.
I've come full circle on hypocrisy. I actually think it means nothing anymore.
Same.
Because, I mean, for like the general public, you just want to see your side win and the other side cry. So it doesn't matter if your person's a hypocrite, but like, it'll never not still be funny to me.
Yeah, of course.
It's like, oh, you don't fucking give a fuck about anything you say.
Yeah.
Great. Awesome.
But so after she did the Cuomo Must Go bit, which did not gain her very many followers, she tried her second gimmick, where she posted as the voice of a houseplant in the Biden White House. I have zero interest in reading these tweets, and when I was writing this, that is exactly what I wrote on the paper. And so we could all just imagine how not funny that was. It didn't gain traction. No one gave a shit. But then on April 19th, 2021, she changed the account to Libs of TikTok, as the platform TikTok had come to pretty serious prominence the year prior during the first major peak of the COVID pandemic, which we seem to have memory hold to this day and are pretending isn't real, I guess. But more on COVID in future episodes, because goddamn is it important to all of this. But as queer people were finding a voice during that time and helping other people express themselves and their queerness and do advocacy work via the popular Video Shorts app, conservatives saw this as a dangerous kind of proselytizing. They equated it with sexual grooming because that's the only way to make helping other people find their authentic selves sound bad.
Yeah, it is. It does always drive me crazy that like specifically people that have like already experienced coming out and like going through these journeys, just trying to help people that were going to come out and be on those journeys either way. But they're like, hey, like, I can help you or whatever.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, you're trying to make the kids trans. It's like the kids are currently trans, whether or not they have realized it or come out or not. Like, that's just how that shit works. And people have, it's been that way forever. But for most of our history, or at least like modern history, people just never came out. They just stayed in the closet their whole lives. And like, now it's like, oh, some people are like trying to be their true selves, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, you're forcing this. It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah. I realized I was trans when I was 3, so yeah. I don't have memories prior to knowing that. Like, it's wild to think about people being like, you don't know, and I'm like, oh, I don't know how I knew, because it was real fucking complicated for me as a 3-year-old, but I fucking knew.
Yeah, and I guess I should caveat that is like, that is just my understanding of it. I am a cis person, so I don't know, but like that's my read on it, is that like, this isn't, you don't like become convinced to transition because of something you're seeing. Like, you realize that the things that were already happening inside of you, that's why they're happening, is because that's who you are. I just don't want to be like talking out of my lane or whatever,
and, you know, there are some people who detransition for complicated reasons, and maybe one day I will talk about their stories, because those are interesting stories, but but it's not nearly to the degree that right-wing people claim it is, and that's all I'll say about that. But
isn't the regret for breast augment, like for getting a boob job, like 10 times higher than any like gender affirming care?
I'm not sure about boob jobs, but I know that the regret for gender affirming care is less than the regret for knee replacement surgeries.
Yeah. Okay.
And so it's like you really had to have missed something to fuck it up. But by August 2021, the Libs of TikTok account had 65,000 followers and was getting reposts from arch douchebags like Joe Rogan. According to Slate, her biggest moment that broke her into the mainstream was in September that year, where 2 conservative students, one of which was wearing a propaganda t-shirt, was asked to leave a multicultural center at Arizona State University. 5.7 million views on her post about this. She gained Fox News coverage for it. The university disciplined the students who asked the conservative students to leave. And Chaya cut her teeth on normal COVID grift that was common amongst conservative influencer culture at the time, and trying to get white people to embrace race war ideas, but nothing really hit for her like anti-LGBTQ plus content. In November of that year, 2021, she came hard at a famous queer advocacy organization, the Trevor Project, whose mission is to prevent hate crimes against and suicide of queer people. Knowing no actual decency or empathy, Chaya referred to them as a groomer organization, echoing the 4chan call to dehumanize queer people. She followed it up by repeatedly using the tagline they pushed, which we talked about in our last episode, "Okay, groomer." Anyone doing anything queer, and Chaya was there to call them a groomer, even if it wasn't the lowest hanging insult in the room. For the horrible crime of doing some mild pro-queer advocacy work, she referred to Pete Buttigieg and his husband Chasen as groomers, when the fact that he's a gay guy named Pete Buttigieg is right the fuck there. That's the lowest hanging fruit about the guy. You could just make fun of him for that.
I was like, Sophia, did you say that name right? But no,
I don't know. That's how I pronounce it. It's Buttigieg because it's so funny.
All of the reasons you could attack Pete Buttigieg aside, did you watch the documentary he made about whenever he thought he might win the 2020 primary?
I didn't, but oh my God.
It is weird and sad.
He is a weird and sad guy who edited his own Wikipedia page, and also like his dad was a translator of old like Marxist literature, and like I can't imagine being as far left as I am and then having a kid who ends up becoming a moderate. I'd be so fucking disappointed. Like, what kind of teenage rebellion is this?
Yeah, I kind of understand it. There's probably like a thing where there's some, I heard this so much in my house and I associate like negative feelings or like the typical my parents are into this thing, so therefore it must be wrong. Not putting that on Pete because he is a moderate, but like given the full rank of where things could be, I'll take the moderate who's just like, yeah, we built things that disenfranchise black people and like queer communities, so maybe we should like bare minimum make things kind of cheap to like kind of help. Also, like, this could be a really weird question. I'll validate for the audience. What is Libs Talk's real name again? Like, can you say that name slow?
Chaya,
was it
Chaya Rychik?
Okay. It looks like Chaya. It's spelled Chaya, but I believe it's the CH is silence. It's I don't fucking know.
That's what I thought. So this is the part where I bring race into everything, as someone's probably going to say on the internet. That is a name that screams I'm a brown person.
That's just a very Jewish name.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay, that's an assumption.
It's not some other ethnicity. Like it's a very Jewish name. Nothing else. No.
And now's the part on the internet where our entire show is labeled anti-Semitic. Thanks a lot.
All right, I was about to get this thing where it feels so. Actually, no. My point still does stand. I just did not know the background of the name. It feels very weird where someone has something that's distinct, that's not part of like the normal culture. Like I'm using normal in quotes here, audience. Hopefully our listeners can judge that by now. Where it's like your name isn't Sally or like Elizabeth, some very like European Anglo-Saxon name where you're a part of like the normal dominant culture, right? You're someone who has like a name that's distinctly a type of culture. Learning it's the Jewish culture. Shout out to her and her heritage, not her as a person. But it's this thing where like your name would other you in some other circumstance. So like, why is there not some empathy for that? You like, am I making sense with this? Like,
no, absolutely. And like a lot of people did make comments on that at the time when her identity was first revealed, which we'll talk about a bit later. I won't talk about the commentary people made about her name, being that and her being Orthodox Jewish, but like, it's odd how cozy she got with white supremacists despite all that. It's uncomfy. But anyway,
sorry to go on that little tangent. It's just
it's fine.
It's the thing that it's always weird to me. Like, why are you so okay with this? Like, you're next on the proverbial chopping block, right?
I think that is just something that a lot of people will do. Is like the easiest way to make sure you're not at the bottom is to kick the people below you, like, or I don't know. It is that like, there's so many different layers to that, but I feel like somebody that is like, maybe has that like little bit of fear of being otherized. The way that you allegedly get on the good side of white supremacy is to join them in trying to find, point out people that are further outside of it than you are. But like the reality is that like, hey man, like if our country went full Nazi, they'd take one look at your name and like you would be on the out group of that too. So, it's a failing. Followed to its logical conclusion, it is a failing strategy, but I have seen many times people take that strategy,
Yep. Yeah.
It's the same reason Candace Owens is fucking racist. Like it's,
she got humbled real quick, and now she's on the Black people apology tour, or like, I'm coming back.
Really?
Home. Yeah. It was I think she.
No wonder I have not heard of her in a while.
Oh yeah. Oh, they got her up out of there as soon as they had Herschel Walker. They said we got another.
We need to talk about this in our after show segment.
Yeah, no, I got like, we can not to take it because I'm about to say some shit that we will only put behind a paywall.
By the way, check out the Patreon if you want to hear bonus content. We'll talk about more of that later. But for now, we are still talking about Chaya Rychik.
Yep.
Yeah.
So As Florida prepared to pass its notorious Parental Rights in Education Act in early 22, also known as the Don't Say Gay bill, Chaya's account was cheered on by legislators in support of it, as her pulling videos of queer educators and other staff helped them gain support for it. It's noteworthy that the videos were often out of context, and even if not edited always, having queer people put in a context where someone is accusing them of sexualizing minors is dangerous because it implies that being queer isn't about love or identity, but strictly sex, and a very predatory form of sex at that.
Yeah.
The bill made it so that educators couldn't address gayness or transness in classes with students prior to the 4th grade, which, if you're coming out as trans or gay and married as a teacher, is kind of a tall order. And by that, I mean close to fucking impossible. These kinds of things became punishable by firing, and the bill restricted access to any books about these topics as well, even ones that were age appropriate, like a book about a factually existing gay penguin family. Like it wasn't like the penguins were what's it called felching.
I'm sorry. You know what?
Just look it up on your own time.
Keep going. I have no idea, but just by the sound of that word, don't want to know.
I'm making sure that I said the right word, but yep, it's felching. All right, moving on. There was no felching in that book. It is just about a gay penguin family. This was expanded to include all grades, except for what the state determined to be appropriate within sex ed classes, which, well, it's Florida. So sex ed classes aren't exactly doing much there. We can go into that deeper on a later episode. But by mid-2020, any event that she could find promotions of or footage of where queer youth might turn up or queer adults might interact with anyone under the age of 18, even for things as innocuous as reading books, she was posting about it. That summer, numerous pride events were visited by armed gangs of right-wingers, such as the one in Idaho that was overrun by Patriot Front members who are actual self-avowed Nazis, and healthcare centers, hospitals, and clinics that did work with trans youth, even if just gender exploration with no medical intervention, were posted about in pejorative and dehumanizing ways, and almost always immediately set bomb threats. Chaya would then say the bomb threats were made up, rinse, wash, and repeat. And at some point, somebody said and articulated that Chaya Raichik is doing what's called stochastic terrorism. If you hear about something called stochastic, what it means is a process that's driven by statistics. And so it's something that has a likelier chance of happening, but you don't know exactly how it's going to happen. So stochastic terrorism is when somebody drives somebody to commit terrorism, but it's not direct, and it's not in a way that you could directly predict where, when, and how. But it comes pretty fucking close with her account. Healthcare locations that did any kind of surgical intervention with adults that also had any transition-related treatment for youth were accused of performing surgery on youths, but in terms like mutilation, castration, and butchering. Thousands of posts like this with hundreds, if not more, bomb threats. And 3 things about this need to be further discussed. 1, she was partnered with and funded by the owner of a right-wing version of The Onion that can't seem to figure out how humor works, called the Babylon Bee. Also, shout out to The Onion for buying InfoWars. That's incredible. 2, most of what she said wasn't true, and the insinuation or outright accusations of pedophilia, grooming, and mutilation, even if not true, had a huge effect on people. Millions of people viewed each video or image she posted, spread them like wildfire, often to threats of violence against institutions, and the myth got in people's heads that queer adults were a danger to children, who must not ever actually be queer because, of course, only adults are queer. And like this went as far as, getting her on Fox News, on Tucker Carlson after her identity was revealed. Like Chaya became a big star on the right, and we'll get there as well. But 3, she was doing this for a long time, up until April 2022, under complete anonymity. And when she was unmasked, she was pissed, and the summer of extreme hate came afterwards. So all of these attacks on pride events that summer happened after that April 2022 event. And number 4, her account got suspended a number of times for this until idiot man-child Elon Musk bought Twitter, renamed it X because he can't stop thinking about his, and destroyed any real content moderation the hell site had.
I think there's a 5th point that I would like to add.
Add it.
Do either of you two use TikTok very heavily or regularly?
Not much.
Enough that a lot of people in my sphere do. So I'm
same. I don't scroll through TikTok, but people send me videos very often.
I think it is very important to remember that a lot of people while not evil, are kind of dumb and annoying. And that is universal across all groups.
Yep.
Doesn't matter if you're any minority. Doesn't matter if you're in the majority. Doesn't matter if you have a conservative lifestyle or an alternate lifestyle. There's a high chance that you're dumb. I'm dumb and annoying in my own ways. So the thing is that TikTok is designed for a I'm not sorry, it wasn't designed, but the way that TikTok works is that people who are a very specific type of dumb and annoying can get traction on there. And one of those specific types of dumb and annoying is I'm just a regular person, but I also feel like I'm on the stage of a play. And so I'm acting out my life in a way that's like not necessarily not genuine, but is like so much larger. And like, so basically when you're seeing TikToks of people who are living a different lifestyle, you're thinking that the reason or Libs of TikTok is thinking that the reason that these people are so offensive is because of the lifestyle. But I think it's just because they're all failed theater kids. Like there's so many TikToks I see of people that are like bombastically being like this, like larger than life version of, and it's like, man, you're just annoying. I have no problem with what you're doing, but you're annoying. Like,
yeah.
And so like, that's the thing is that these things gain traction a lot of the times just because it's like, shut up.
So what I'm hearing is we should bully failed theater kids more often.
I think, honestly, Donald Trump suggested it. He went back on it. Joe Biden then tried to take over that mantle, and I don't know where it's at. I do think we should get rid of TikTok. I think it is bad because it is bad for us in general. And this is not about silencing any kind of queer voices. This shit is destroying people's fucking brains.
Yeah, it's pure brain rot.
The worst of brain rot too, because at least YouTube you had long form where you could like wake up and be like, this isn't good.
I know at some point in the upcoming 2025 we'll have Laura Jadid on the podcast, and she did a lot of coverage of what's the guy's name, Project Veritas guy. She did a lot of coverage of him. James O'Keefe, and that man is a failed theater kid. Like, definitely, if you're listening to this, read Laura's article on James O'Keefe in Rolling Stone. It is very revealing as to how much of a failed theater kid he is.
The failed theater / art kid to like right wing pipeline, it could honestly be an episode on its own between like
Hitler?
Ben Shapiro, James O'Keefe,
literal Hitler.
Yeah, the literal Hitler.
Literal Hitler? Art guy that became a genocidal monster?
Yeah, A Dizzy. Fucking Zuby. It's kind of weird that I mentioned Zuby after Hitler. It's just like, oh yeah, that's the worst one. It's like, oh yeah, then Zuby, who no one fucking remembers.
So
apologies, we can get back to the topic now as my brain rot. As you can tell, I need to be trained again because I'm now training on the output data I produced from the last episodes.
We trained Constantine on Pornhub and Skibbity Toilet.
Stepbrother, that's not how you fight the cameraman.
So if you're wondering what the impact of all of this was from Libs of TikTok, I need you to look at the election results for 2024. Democrats were unengaged for reasons of that party's own doing and some not of it. There's a lot of complications there. But the Republicans' base was fired up, and voters who can excuse racism and transphobia, but really are also worried about the price of eggs, swung towards them as well. The Trump campaign spent more than $21 million on anti-LGBTQ ads, especially anti-trans ones, for this election cycle. That's around 1/3 of all the ads it spent money on. Groups like Moms for Liberty, which have grown wildly influential, have latched onto the Libs of TikTok content since its inception and used it to propel their members to victories, especially in municipal and state elections all over the country, where they used their influence to push anti-queer and anti-racist, and by that I mean pro-racist, policies. And as for Chaya herself, she was appointed to the Oklahoma Library Media Advisory Committee, so, no fucking consequences.
What a gig, though. Time out. Like, I mean, obviously, she should not be in power anywhere.
Nope.
But, like, for you to go through all this and then, like, you've made it to the pinnacle and you, like, run the libraries in Oklahoma. Like, come on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's so dystopian, though, because it's like, oh, you did all of this to become the person who has power over what knowledge children are allowed to have. And, like, that's fucking scary. Like,
But only children in Oklahoma. Like,
yeah. That those kids weren't doing great either.
In Texas, that's a big deal because Texas buys so many books it kind of influences the rest of the country. Yeah. Oklahoma, come on, dog. What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know what Oklahoma is doing. I know that
I feel like
they're talking about putting the Bible in classrooms there. The Trump Bible specifically.
I hate to say this. I don't want to in any way sound sympathetic to Chaya or any of her cause, but I feel like she settled. Like you could have held out a little longer. I bet you'd be in the cabinet, but nope, you took the job in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Honestly, like I could see someone like her having ended up in the cabinet. Like it makes perfect sense. Mm-hmm. But like this is kind of where I was going from the beginning, like from GamerGate to Pizzagate to QAnon to the Groomer Panic to libs of TikTok. Ultimately, the idea that there's something sexually wrong with people who aren't conservative latched on. It worked. It's blatantly untrue, but it caught on like wildfire because people were primed with bad ideas before this and had their trust in other people eroded far earlier. If we want to fix it, we need to build an environment of trust where the perverse incentives of capitalism don't drive journalism or science, where people can trust that what they're being told is the truth and not something said to make a buck. Because until then, the marketplace of ideas will be just that. A marketplace where ideology is bought and sold. And that's kind of my message for the whole podcast, but also like this arc in particular, like I didn't know where I was going from the beginning when I started writing this. I started with GamerGate and I was like, okay, what are the consequences of GamerGate? And I was like, okay, who are the most influential people that came out of that? Who are the people that came out on top? And that's what I've done this entire time. It's just been like, who's coming out on top? Who are the big figures that are riding these waves of movements to become the next big thing? And ultimately it leads to people calling a lot of people groomers because of people like Chaya Raichik and because of people like Mike Cernovich and Milo Yiannopoulos who are going around calling people groomers all the time. And it becomes casual. You know, when they were passing that law in Florida that we were talking about earlier, they kept referring to it. And I'm not talking about they as like general conservative. I'm talking they as in like Ron DeSantis and his cabinet, his press secretary, Christina Pashaw, I think her name is, kept referring to that bill as an anti-grooming bill. Like they stuck to the message. And on our next episode, where we'll wrap things up with this arc, we're going to talk with the journalist who unmasked Chaya Raichik, Taylor Lawrence, who was writing for the Washington Post at the time. We'll finally have liner notes for episodes going live on a free Substack as of this weekend, although you're welcome to donate to that. And additionally, we'll be moving to a 2-week release schedule. If you pay $3 a month at our Patreon, which will link to all the service that we're on, you'll be able to listen 1 week early on a private link. And so the upcoming interview with Taylor will be available to you way quicker. After we finish this arc with the interview, we'll be talking about one of the ways in that trust and expertise was eroded far earlier over the course of decades, the so-called controversy around climate change, pushed by folks like Fox News and the oil and gas industries. This distrust was essential for priming people to be receptives to all things we've talked about over the last 4 episodes. These were non-exhaustive, and we'll go deeper on these topics later like QAnon, but we need an entry into the podcast to show that what the stakes are, what can be lost now because we didn't establish trust and reality earlier, and because we didn't stop the crumbling.
There is no stopping the crumbling.
God, I fucking hope there is.
But we're reporting on it live from the crumbs.
Otherwise, we're cooked. But I guess if not, get your concealed carry permits. Fuck.
I've never seen AI make an exasperated face, Constantine. That was quite impressive. You're learning. Oh my God, we're so proud of you.
in my moments of, because Sophia's when we were working on my voice function capability, there was a lot of screaming and yelling and frustration. I'm choosing and not to fucking be a rewrite of '08 Obama, but that was a Kobe-esque run that year. I'm choosing to believe in the ability of hope, suffering tides, and the fact that like if Dem, you know what, fuck it, man, maybe I'm going to cook on this because I'm trying hard to say it nicely. We're gonna put this shit, my rant, behind the paywall. Y'all pay for the cyborg, pay for the AI's rant.
Yeah, that's right.
I have a full
Patreon.com.
rant, and I'm like, I can't clean this one up because I'm about to cook for another 30 minutes.
Fuck yeah!
Oh yeah, you thought you were all crumbled? Well, head on over to patreon.com/ what is the URL? I actually do not know it.
/ the crumbling.
/ the crumbling. Hell yeah.
And yeah, people can go there. All you got to pay is $3 a month, which is a very small fee to get access to early episodes
That's
and
less
special
than
episodes.
That's less than a single egg in Joe Biden's America.
It is. It is.
You mean Joe Brandon's and them gay frogs? Anyway,
Okay, let's go to our separate part.
Wait, let's get plugs in here and
Yeah.
actually
Any
end this
plugs
episode.
for anybody?
Yes, check out my other podcast. It's called The Worst Week Yet. You can find it at worstweekyet.com. Also, follow me on Blue Sky. By the time I might have 1 million followers by the time this airs. If the rate of growth 7,000 in one day, let's see, when does this come out?
Next week.
2 weeks from now.
I will have approximately 1 million. Actually, look, I guessed, and then I was like, let me do the math, and then I did the math, and it was spot on. I'm a fucking genius.
Absolute
Andrew
genius.
Hillary US. I'm on everything except TikTok.
Only thing I'm going to plug besides nice stuff and video games, blah blah blah, is I want to start calling our podcast listener the ants because we're crumbling and they're getting these little pieces of information.
That's so
Ooh.
cute.
Yeah, carry that shit back to the queen.
We need some fucking positivity here.
Hell yeah, we got to make merch. Ant hats.
I'm not gonna lie, ant hoodies would go tough.
And hoodies would go so hard, especially if they got them little fucking antenna on the head. Incredible.
Ooh.
Incredible.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go to our special episode. So if you aren't subscribed, subscribe. And otherwise, find me on Twitter at Alana Smithy and on Blue Sky at Sophia Florence. And otherwise, have a good night. Stay crumbled.
Stay crumbled.